Communication dynamics. All human interactions are based on the following: facts, actions, events. 2. Feelings. 3. Desires, which are commonly subconscious or conscious, and maybe expectations. 4. Interpretations or conclusions. Judgments, good or bad. We make discerning actions and choices based on these 4 interactions: facts, feeling, desires, and interpretations. Navigating these human interactions either moves people farther apart or helps people to get closer together through confrontation and resolution. 5. Requests. Requests are potential agreements that can also bring people closer through win-win resolutions or further apart because of irreconcilable negotiation choices. Our first focus will be understanding facts. Facts are verifiable by a recording device like a camera that records audio, video, and dates. False facts can lead us to judge others or at least make discerning choices about others that may be based in vague, false, distorted, delusional events and life experiences. Thus, it is essential to get the facts before making interpretations and choices. Example of an action and fact. John leaves dishes in the kitchen sink and crumbs on the kitchen floor whenever he cooks in the kitchen.
John, you're such a slob.
John is a slob is an interpretation, not a fact. Even if Jane and 99% of the world believe John is a slob, it is still only what we might call a relative truth. For these 99%, it is a truth, but not a fact.
What is true for one may be false for the other. John may interpret the kitchen as clean because a few crumbs and dishes in the sink does not contribute to his interpretation of what a slob is.
People typically look for confirmation from others or science to assert that their interpretations are true. Modern science, quantum mechanics, physics, states that the truth is based on the observer's influence. Who is observing the data? There was a time when perhaps 99.999% of the world thought the sun and planets rotated around the Earth, or that the Earth was flat. This is an example of an assumed hypothesis, a relative truth, not an observable fact.
After the invention of the telescope, it still took 1 to 100 years for most people to start believing the observable, verifiable fact that the world was round and that the Earth rotated round the sun.
In the Sacred Journey game, we are defining facts as absolute truths, no matter how many people believe them to be true or false. In the following examples, decide whether you are listening to a fact or an interpretation or a truth.
John, when you criticize me, I feel sad.
Is this a fact, an interpretation, or a truth? Hint. Does a camera see or hear criticize? Is sad a universal, verifiable action? Does a camera record sadness? What is sadness?
Sadness is a feeling.
This example states an interpretation, criticize, a feeling, sad, and both of these are relative truths for Jane.
John might think that instead of criticizing, he was merely stating some facts.
So instead of jumping to conclusions, Jane can state the facts in the following way. First, she can state her desire.
John, I would like to make sure I understand what you said. I heard you say that I'm always late.
Jane is establishing what John said as a fact without getting into debating whether she was always late or not. A recording device would have recorded that he did in fact say the sentence, "You are always late," fact, regardless of the content or meaning of the sentence.
John, you also said, I dress with colors that you say are dull.
Would a recording device have recorded this statement?
And I think you also said, I went out with my friends 5 out of 7 nights last week.
So, did Jane hear correctly what John said? John can say or confirm the repeated facts by saying, "Yes, that is exactly what I said." Jane and John both now know that Jane heard John correctly. Jane could go on to express her perspective, and for now, we will stick with the facts. Here's another example.
He is suing me because he fell on my office floor last Tuesday. I got served with a subpoena today.
Could a camera verify these statements as facts?
So I have to go to court now because of this clumsy klutz?
Could a camera verify clumsy klutz, or is this an interpretation? Let's go back to our first example.
When I see dishes in the sink and crumbs on the floor,
facts.
I feel frustration. My shoulders rise and my whole body gets tense.
Feelings. Note. Jane's feelings are her stuff. Someone else, like John, feels fine about it.
I have this incessant desire to see a spotless kitchen when I get home.
Jane's stuff.
Because I would rather relax after work than feel uncomfortable because of my incessant need to clean overrides my desire to relax.
Jane's desire is to relax instead of clean. Request.
John, would you be willing to clean the kitchen before I get home?
Jane could be more specific by requesting or saying, John both put the dishes away in the cupboard and sweep the floor before she gets home. John will agree or not, and see our later discussion on requests. Note, Jane has to genuinely desire to resolve her feelings through language for a resolution to occur. If Jane were to say or even think,
John, you're such a slob.
Interpretation, judgment.
The kitchen is a mess.
Interpretation, judgment.
You have no consideration for me.
Interpretation, judgment.
Clean it up, now.
She's ordering and demanding instead of requesting. Another common communication style is sugar-coated niceness. If Jane says or even thinks with a sugar-coated manipulative attitude,
honey, you know when I see dishes in the sink and crumbs on the floor,
facts,
I feel frustrated.
Feeling.
I have this incessant
desire
to see a spotless kitchen when I get home.
Jane's stuff.
Because you know, honey, I would rather relax after work than feel uncomfortable because of, my incessant need to clean overrides my desire to relax. John, would you be willing to put the dishes away in the cupboard? And maybe, also sweep the floor before I come home? Oh, thanks, honey. You're the best.
If Jane talked like this, or even thought like this, how do you sense the rest of their evening would be affected? Language skills are only as effective as the sincerity that is behind them. When language is backed by the sincere, genuine gift of feelings, deep resolution and bonding are created.